Hi, fam. Welcome to La Fama Bleu. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate you. Please subscribe and encourage with a comment. Um, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what do I share with you today, which is probably what I do every time I have to post. I'm always trying to figure out what do I share, what will be beneficial to someone out there. Um, and I'm not even sure, honestly. I'm just gonna continue to be transparent and share whatever comes to mind. And hopefully, someone will have a takeaway or possibly learn from it and not make the same mistakes that I made. So, and I know some of you might be saying, well, why did she marry this guy anyway when there were some obvious signs? To be honest, when you're in it, you don't realize the signs. That's just the way it works. Um, yeah, you almost have to step outside of yourself or outside of a relationship to actually see, um, just the red flags, really, because there were quite a lot that I ignored. And again, I grew up um, with certain expectations, I want to say. My parents are married, have been married for, I want to say, over 30 years, 30 plus. And so I didn't really know what to look for. I just knew that I wanted a long term relationship, a relationship where I would have the same success that my parents have. But let me take you back a little bit because I think that what I'm about to share kind of set my foundation a little bit. I had been attending a church where I live, where I lived before, actually, in a different state, where the pastor used to say something along the line of how when she met her husband, they were both pastors, the husband and wife led the church. She used to say when she met her husband at the time, he practically had nothing. And so together, they they ended up building this multi-billion-dollar church, this mega church. And so they built it together, I mean, she had money when she married him, but it sounded as if he really didn't have much. So I grew up in this church realizing that when you enter a relationship, as long as the two of you come together and can have a plan really to build and become successful, then it's achievable. That's pretty much how I looked at uh, my marriage. I had my house. I had already purchased a home. My husband at the time, he was living in an apartment, not an apartment complex, but an apartment. And so when we got married, I wasn't going to sell the house. So he moved into my home, which became our home. At least that's how I looked at it. And I knew we weren't going to stay there forever. We were just going to use it as a platform to grow, to save, and then to move on to a different neighborhood. But hopefully, the goal was to really purchase a bigger home and make it ours. But I don't know if I shared this in a previous video, but once he moved into the home, he never made it his. he would complain about not knowing where the bills were, what to pay for. We did have a joint account where we could actually pay our bills together, but his complaints were, I don't know where the bills are. I don't know what to do. This is your home. It was just tedious, really. It was kind of like complaints that didn't really make sense because whenever I picked up the mail was right by the front door. So if you are coming into a home and you want to make it yours, then you have to be proactive. Open up the mail, see what's going on. I didn't have any, I didn't have any hidden agenda. I just knew we were in a marriage and everything was ours together. But he didn't get that concept, unfortunately. So honestly, he really didn't really open the mails at all. So I continued to pay the bills like I was doing before, as if I was still single, to be honest. Um, and so at some point, um, we were still in the process of trying to conceive, and it wasn't happening. So we crossed paths with others who had been either doing foster care or even adoption. We were in a church where pretty much every couple had adopted, and we thought of that as being a possibility. But at first, we were looking at foster care. But during that process, our mutual friend um, had someone who was actually inquiring about having their grandchildren adopted. And so I didn't think anything of it at the time. I just simply said, well, um, at the church, there are several couples who are adopting. Maybe we should inquire to see if maybe the pastor can share it with the congregation, and maybe that would open up the door for these two children to be adopted. And when I shared that story with my husband at the time, he decided, he prayed about it, and he said he thought God was moving us in that direction. And I know I'm digressing from one story to the next. So that's how we ended up adopting two children early on in our marriage. We were having a lot of issues, I have to say. We were having the issues of adapting to each other's, culture, as well as expectations, standards. Um, there's not a time throughout the marriage where he was not um, complaining about my standards being too high. So we had all these issues going on, and then on top of all these issues, I'm painting a picture for you here, we piled on two adopted children. Now, because he had felt strongly about God speaking to him to adopt these two kids, I didn't really fight him on the topic. And I really should have, but I didn't. Because I didn't feel that strongly about it, but I went along with it. And at first I thought, well, maybe God is going to be using us to get these kids out of the situation that they were in. Listen carefully. I never thought that God wanted us to adopt the children. I thought that he was using us as a vessel to get the kids out of the situation and then to get them adopted by someone else, someone who had a better relationship than we did, someone who had a stronger foundation in terms of what the marriage should look like. But once he brought the kids home, or should I say we, he decided he wanted to keep them. Now, keep in mind, this man had no concept of paying bills at the house. He had no concept of what our marriage should look like. He wasn't really investing in the marriage. Throughout the adoption process, I'm going back a little bit, he did all the research. I never, honestly, God is my witness, I never looked at a piece of paper. I didn't know anything about adoption. I wasn't pursuing adoption, but he went through the entire research in terms of how to adopt, what paperwork was needed, um, in terms of supported documents. He did all the research and compiled all the paperwork necessary to get this accomplished, which we were able to, um, I guess, kind of go through the entire adoption process. I want to say probably within a year. And so sometimes when I think back on it, I say to myself, there are certain things that he really put his time and effort into to kind of see it through. But I don't ever remember him doing that for the marriage, to be honest, because we went through several counselors through counseling through the church, the pastors, other couples, but not once did he initiate these counseling sessions. I was the one who always said to him, I think we need counseling. I think we need to kind of see eye to eye on this. I think we need this. I think we need that. I always felt that there was not enough effort, I want to say, in terms of building the marriage. There was always some external project, and I almost want to say that's what he considered the adoption to be. Because even throughout us bringing the children to our home, I remember the first 30 days, and again, God is my witness, I have no reason to lie. Within the first 30 days, I started saying, I don't believe this is what God wants for us to bring the kids into our home. I believe that we should get the kids readopted. And he said, no, we brought the kids home, we're keeping them home. Remind you, the kids didn't even know who we were. To them, we were just two individuals. Unfortunately, they had gone through the system where, of course, they had been in an orphanage. And so they just saw a man and a woman. In fact, when we brought them home, that's how they used to call us, because that's what they were calling the workers that they had been exposed to very early on. And so I said, listen, they don't know who we are. We need to get them into a better situation, because I knew our situation was not the best. And I knew if we were going to get to the state of having a better marriage, we needed to lessen the layers. We couldn't keep on adding layers upon layers and think that at the end of the day we were going to have a successful marriage. I knew that was not what we needed at the time. But no, he fought tooth and nail. He kept on saying, nope, we brought them home, we're going to keep them home. And so what I ended up doing, and this was, I'm trying to think, we brought the kids to our home, let's say by September, October. So January of that year, of that following year. So let's say September, October, November, December, and then January, New Year. I decided I was not going to sign any additional forms because I wanted him to take me seriously. I said, listen, I'm not going to finalize anything additional because I need you to hear me. And I didn't know how to make him hear me. I was just trying to minimize my involvement in sealing this, sealing the adoption or finalizing the paperwork because I wanted him to hear me and I didn't know how to cry out to him. And so right around that time, this was like, let's say October, November, December, January. So 4 months later, keep that in mind, I decided I was going to take a step back to see if he would actually hear my cry. And I will take you through the years. He never, not once, heard my heart. I did not want to put these kids in anybody's home, but I wanted to put them in the best of a home. And at the time, the resources were there because we were in a church where so many people were looking to adopt. These were couples who had been in relationships for years. Some of them had already had children of their own, and they were just looking to add. And he didn't see it. He didn't have that vision for these kids. And so I'm not going to take you through the years now, but I wanted you to see that within 30 days of us bringing the kids to our home, I was trying to get them into a better situation. And so, did it ever happen? No, it never did. He never heard me. And I feel that not having brought the kids to our home destroyed our marriage. Looking back, I can see that we weren't going to have a successful marriage anyway because the foundation that we should have had, we didn't have, which was safety. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel protected. I didn't feel trusted. My opinion didn't matter. My feelings didn't matter. And so yeah, we weren't going to make it, you guys. It wasn't going to happen. The only way that we would have had a successful marriage is if, excuse me, feeling emotional here, is if this man had been raised differently. That's the only way. And I couldn't have changed that. He did not have the concept of what marriage, of what his marriage should have looked like. He didn't understand the power of listening to his wife or validating my feelings, my opinion. He didn't know how to protect me. And I didn't trust him at all because he could not provide protection around me to secure me, to make me feel secure, to make me feel heard. That in return created that lack of trust because I felt that he validated everyone else's opinion, but not mine. And yet I was the one he was married to. So it was doomed to fail, really. It was doomed to fail. Yes, there were signs during our dating relationship. Yes, those signs were there without question. But I didn't see them. I didn't see them. I ignored them. I avoided them. So I'm going to leave this here. Thank you for listening. If you are in a similar situation and you're not married yet, if you can see the signs now, don't think they're going to change once you say I do. And it's going to have to be his change, his decision to change, or her decision to change, not yours. All right? I do believe people do change once they enter a marriage, but they have to make that change for themselves. Because I have a family member who always says, and this is a man, he always says, I don't do anything without listening to my wife's opinion. Nothing. Because he says at the end of the day, her opinion matters. And the majority of the time, if not all the time, he sees that she's got his back. And he says, she's never going to steer me wrong. So why wouldn't I listen to her opinion? And they have this strong bond without question because he validates her and she protects him too. Because she knows that whatever she shares is going to be for his benefit. And he knows that whatever she shares, that is going to be for, I hope I'm saying this right. Whatever she shares is going to be for his benefit. And he knows that whatever she shares with him, it is going to be for his benefit or their benefit. So at the end of the day, why not? Listen, I don't know any wife or any husband who enters a marriage and says, you know what? I don't think this person's going to have my back. You got to think that the person's going to have your back. Otherwise, don't even bother. All right, friends. This is all that I have for you today. All right, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. And until we meet again, this is La Femme Bleue. I'll talk to you soon.